Let's jump right into it. We're going to be installing a 100 amp Generac automatic transfer switch as well as a brand new generator. And I'm going to show you guys everything that we did to get this thing installed. So the first thing I got to do is I got to shut the gas off, and then I got to take all the bolts out of the generator because this one was bolted down to the concrete pad. This is what the inside of the house looked like. So that is the old transfer switch, and as you can see, it's got some breakers in it. So what we got to do is we got to take the breakers out of that transfer switch, put them into the panel there, and then eliminate the transfer switch completely and get rid of it. The thing is junk. So this is how I got rid of the old generator. I actually lifted it up on top of a dolly and then ratchet strapped it down to the dolly, and we just wheeled it right across the lawn into the back of the truck. It worked out perfectly. So this is what the new generator looks like. We got it set on top of the concrete pad here. We got a new concrete pad for this. This is a gen pad. And then we're going to make sure that we bolt everything down. You got to make sure that you bolt the generator down. That is the proper install. The next thing I got to do is I got to use a step bit here because I got to get my punch in there. I'm going to be using a 2-inch punch here, and this is the Greenlee punch set. I love this punch set. We've had it forever, and it just works. The next thing we got to do is we got to punch the side of the actual transfer switch itself, and that's what we used again, another 2-inch punch there. And then what I like to do is I use a 2-inch offset nipple there. You got to make sure that you use weatherproof lock nuts. If you don't use the weatherproof lock nuts, that's not up to code, and it's going to take on water. So now we reuse the existing 1.25-inch pipe there. It already has an expansion fitting on it. And then we also reuse the conductors that were in that pipe because Generac states that they have to be at least 18 gauge and they have to be 600 volt rated. So we only had to pull in one more additional conductor, and we ended up using a piece of THHN, which was 600 volt rated, so we're covered there. I got the whole entire transfer switch cut in nice and neatly there. Some sticky backs in there to hold all the wires nice and neat. And this transfer switch is just done right. We also landed all our control wires on there, got those nice and neatened up, and we also put a service outlet on there, and that's going to be labeled circuit number 8, and we just came right out of that PVC box. I made sure to label the pipe. This is the pipe for the generator, just in case anyone goes by and they're wondering what that pipe's for. It's for the generator. Also, we didn't tie in the batteries yet because, again, we have to call a licensed plumber out here to hook up the gas. So what I like to do is I just put the battery in there, I taped the connections, and then made everything nice and safe. And that's what the finished result looks like there. So I made sure that I labeled it main panel disconnect 100 amp, just to make sure that everybody knows that there's a breaker in there. And then also everybody knows that there's an actual breaker for the generator itself in the generator. I put a little bit of steel wool in there to prevent any mice going in there because the skirt is on its way. So if you're in Massachusetts or Rhode Island, give us a call. We're taking new clients.